Welcome everyone. Thanks for coming to today's webinar about FASEA, the FASEA Standards. I'm going to kick off. It's 12:35 sharp. People will join us as we go through. This will also be recorded, so for any latecomers, we can get it out to them. For those who are here, can you just type in the chat box that you can hear me? Just a yes. I know I spoke to Dave before. The other Dave, can you hear me okay? Perfect, beautiful. Okay, I'll kick off. Now, this particular webinar is for existing advisors. So it's not for new advisors, it's for existing advisors. I'm just going to make that clear because it is different for existing advisors. So we're really operating in this kind of space, if you like. So what we're going to look at today is everything in that circle, and that is the degree or I'm just going to minimise this. Nothing's ever perfect, obviously. And so the FASEA approved degree that includes graduate diplomas, graduate certificates, all that stuff. So degree is a generic term from FASEA's perspective. The national exam, and also we're going to have a look at the CPD. Because that's what's pertinent and to existing advisors. So for everyone who's here and for everyone who's watching this afterwards, an existing advisor is anyone who was an authorised representative, that is, on the Financial Advisor Register anytime between the 1st of January 2016 and the 31st of December 2018. And as you've probably seen in the media articles and stuff that's come out, there was a huge spike at the end of last year with all the institutions trying to get people licensed and existing. So let's focus on what it's all about, what the FASEA standards are about, and it's pretty set now. There's a couple of things that are still up in the air, which I'll talk about later, but it's pretty much set. It's all done deal. All the things have been released by FASEA. So what are the FASEA standards? So again, FASEA, your choice. You can call it FASEA if you want. I don't really care. So it's up to you what you call it. I call it FASEA because that's just me, but you can call it whatever you like. There's 7 FASEA standards, and the ones highlighted in blue are the ones that are really relevant to Australian-based existing advisors. So when I say Australian-based, I mean people who have the qualifications from Australia. So we're going to look at the higher education requirements. That is the FASEA-approved degree and courses that an existing advisor must undertake. We're going to look at the financial advisor exam. That's another very important aspect that is getting a little bit more airtime now, and rightly so. We're going to look at the continuing professional development. So for you guys who are existing advisors in this webinar, the 31st of March was the deadline for licensees to have CPD plans in place for their ARs. So you should already have this covered. But I'll still go through it as to what should and shouldn't be in there. Code of ethics. As we said in the previous slide, that kicks in at the start of next year. It's been released by FASEA. It's pretty straightforward. No surprises in terms of what it's all about, and that'll form the basis of one of the bridging courses in the higher education courses. Professional year, look, I've put that in just to make people aware. It doesn't apply to existing advisors. I'll say that again. It does not apply to existing advisors. The professional year only applies to new advisors. I'm just putting it in there because it's important for existing advisors to think through if they're going to grow their business, they're going to bring on new advisors. If they're bringing on new advisors who don't meet the existing advisor definition, then you've really got to kind of think through not only the higher education and the exam and CPD, but also the professional year. They've finalised the term provisional financial planner and financial advisor. That is anyone who undertakes a professional year. They've also finalised the framework for foreign qualifications. That is, if someone's got a degree or another qualification from overseas, they have to get it mapped and then approved. It's a 2-step process under the FASEA standards. That's all been finalised as well. So that's good. So of those 7, which apply to you as an existing advisor, well, as we talked about, these ones are the main ones. It's completing the FASEA approved degree. Okay. Now, when they say degree FASEA, it means your traditional undergraduate degree. It also means postgraduate degrees, such as your graduate diploma of financial planning and your Masters of Financial Planning. So degree is a generic term meaning AQF 7 or above, 7 being a bachelor's degree, 8 being a graduate diploma, and 9 being a master's. You then have to, and this is in sequence, you then have to pass the financial advisor exam. So you have to come in and pass the financial advisor exam. As an existing advisor, you can sit the exam before you complete the degree, of course. For new advisors, that's not the case. So you can pass the financial advisor exam, and you need to meet the CPD requirements. And we're going to go through each of these points in more detail. By when? And this is probably the question I get asked the most. Now people are kind of familiar with these things here, but it's the sequence: how, when, why, what. Well, it's pretty straightforward. So the FASEA approved course, depending on what you need to do as an individual, because it will differ between individuals, that needs to be completed by the end of 2023. So everyone talks about 2024, which is technically correct, because you've got to have it done by the end of the 31st of December 2023. So by the 1st of January 2024, you need to have met the requirements. So hopefully people don't get confused and think they've got another year, because that would be really unfortunate and really ugly. The exam, similarly, at this stage, and I say at this stage is because there has been a delay in rolling this out, so you never know where this will land, but at this stage, existing advisors have to have successfully passed the financial advisor exam as set by FASEA through an external body by the 31st of December 2020. That is, by the end of next year. So by the start of 2021, 1st of January, an existing advisor has to have passed that financial advisor exam. We're going to go through that in more detail as well. There's a whole couple of slides. So what does that mean? Well, you've got around 4.5 years to get the FASEA approved higher degree and courses under your belt, and you've got about 1.5 years as it currently stands to get the exam done and dusted. CPD, the plan needs to be in place by the 31st of March. Obviously, that's passed. So hopefully your licensee sat down with you and that's all worked out. So let's focus on the higher education, the first piece, which is probably where most people are less certain, because the exam's an exam. So, you know, we don't know much about the exam yet other than the framework, but an exam's an exam. Higher education is a bit broader because everyone's different, or the requirements for everyone is going to be different based on where they start, because everyone will start from a different position. We'll go through that now. So as an existing advisor, there's 2 pathways effectively, excuse me, to meet the FASEA approved requirements. You can either do an undergraduate degree or you can do a postgraduate diploma of financial planning. Which pathway would you choose? Well, we'll go through that in a little bit more detail now, but you could choose either depending on personal preferences and a whole range of other issues. But to be fair, most existing advisors would probably take the pathway of least resistance, and obviously that's going to be 8 subjects over 24 subjects. So for most existing advisors, the best pathway for them will be the graduate diploma of financial planning as a starting point. That would be where they're aiming, and how many credits and what they actually need to do we'll go through in the coming slides. But as a starting point, the aim would be around the graduate diploma of financial planning. And assuming no credits whatsoever, and an example of where that would be applicable is an existing advisor who has the diploma of financial planning only, which is a lot of advisors. They, as it currently stands, would not be eligible for any credits into the graduate diploma of financial planning. They would be eligible for entry, provided they meet the admissions requirements of the different universities, which most advisors will, based on experience and previous qualifications. But if they have no credits, they've just got the DFP, they need to do all 8 subjects, which means about 2 years part-time study, and it's going to cost them about somewhere between $19,000 to $29,000. So I'll unpack that a little bit. 8 subjects, 2 years part-time. Most universities will be running this graduate diploma via tri-semester, so 3 semesters a year. Most people can knock over 8 subjects in 6 semesters. It's probably not too big a stretch. That's the 2 years part-time. But that assumes no fails and no time off. So you might want to extend that out by a year or so, depending on what's going on in your life. The 19 to 29,000, that is basically the per subject cost of somewhere between 2,500 to 3,500, depending on the university. So that's why that range is there. You don't have to pay it up front. You can. You can also access the federal government fee help. So it's a loan scheme. It's like HEX, but it's not HEX. So it's a loan scheme where you do obviously pay it back over time. So there are funding options around that, which the universities will discuss. And why, as I said before, why are you going to go to the graduate? Most people are going to go to the graduate diploma for existing advisors. Quite simply, number of subjects, entry will be possible into it for most people who are existing advisors. And for most advisors, it's likely they will get credits. We'll go through the credit situation in a moment. What does that mean? Well, it saves time and money, and everyone loves both of those assets, money and time. So let's go through that in a bit more detail now. So the credits, if we start on from the premise that each credit or each subject into the Graduate Diploma of Financial Planning is about 2,500 to 3,000. On average, you're going to save, for every credit you get into that particular course, you're going to save about $3,000, and you're going to save about 1 semester's worth of study, which is roughly about 4 months. So for each credit, you save $3,000 and you save 4 months study time. That's pretty powerful. So it's really important for anyone who's an existing advisor and is going to take this pathway into the graduate diploma to really think about where they're at now, where they're starting from, and how they might want to maximise their credits based on their current situation, based on the options of further study before they go into the admissions process for the graduate diploma. Because once you're in the admissions process, that's it. They can only give you credits based on what you've done to that point, not what you're going to do in the future. So there's 3 main types of existing advisors that I'm going to look at here. One will hold a relevant degree, one will hold a non-relevant degree, and one will hold a Diploma of Financial Planning only. So let's start with the relevant degree. We've all heard the term relevant degree. Relevant degree is simply a degree that has 8 or more subjects, completed subjects, that meet one of those criteria there, which is accounting, tax, finance, economics, financial planning, law. There's a whole range of additional subjects, which I just couldn't fit on the slide, so sorry about that, but you get the feel for it. It's basically a degree that has subjects around these areas plus some business law, and there's a whole range of others, that superannuation and the broader financial planning subjects as well. What that does is someone holds that, so a classic example would be an accountant who would hold a tax degree, or a existing advisor who's got a Bachelor of Business and has majored in finance or something like that. They would typically meet the relevant degree. So they would get 4 credits under the FASEA framework if they wanted to enrol into the Graduate Diploma of Financial Planning. Okay, so what does that mean? They have to do 3 bridging courses, which are the 3 bridging courses nominated by FASEA, which is the Code of Ethics, the Behavioural Finance, and the Regulatory and Corporate Act legislation. So they're the 3 kind of core courses, or bridging courses, that they're referring to, plus 1 approved subject under the graduate diploma. That's if, and I stress this entirely, that's if they want to enrol in the graduate diploma and attain a qualification. So they would then enrol in the graduate diploma with the university. The university would assess their relevant degree, and they would say, right, based on the FASEA standards, we can give you 4 credits. That means you need to complete these 4 subjects. And off the person would go, no dramas, and they do 4 subjects, 1 subject a semester, taking 4 semesters, so a year and a bit, and they're done. So that's a pretty neat, convenient outcome for someone who holds a relevant degree. Okay, is there a list of what a relevant degree is? No, there's no such list, because any degree, as long as it meets this requirement of 8 or more subjects covering these areas, can be approved. Okay. Secondly, there's no 10-year rule. So if a degree is completed in the 90s, like mine, then under FASEA, there's no restrictions. The university is allowed to take that into account. However, the challenge at the moment is the universities need to get their academic board to sign off on being able to accept qualifications that are 10 years or more older. And it's not a given that all universities offering these courses will do that. So that's why shopping around for the best deal with universities is really, really important. And up to 7 credits, I'll come to that in a second. That's just a little teaser, just that I'd throw that in there. Non-relevant degree. So if someone's got a non-relevant degree, classic example I came across recently was a Bachelor of Music or a Bachelor of Education. Great, non-relevant degrees. They will get 1 credit automatically towards the graduate diploma. So they'll have to do 7 subjects, okay? If they decide to enrol in the graduate diploma and finalise it. There's a little quirk in the rules as well, where FASEA has come out and said, look, we understand there's a bit of a middle ground. You know, there's people who have a Bachelor of Education, fine, they get 1 credit. But we also understand there's people who have got a Bachelor of Business that may not necessarily have 8 subjects in these areas, but they might have 4 or 7 or 4, 5, 6 or 7. So what FASEA have said is, if you hold a degree and you've got somewhere between 4 to 7 subjects, just down here, in these areas, but not 8, then you get an additional 2 credits. So in total, 3 credits. So a non-relevant degree with no, finance-related subjects, 1 credit. A non-relevant degree with 4 to 7 effectively finance-related subjects, you get 3 credits. So again, it's really important to understand where you're starting from and to have a look at the individual subjects that are completed by an individual existing advisor. And that's why I keep saying everyone's different, because you can just see from here, everyone's starting from a completely different point depending on what subjects they've chosen in their degree. Some people go off on an arts major, some people go off on a business major, some people go off on a history major. So it's really important to drill down to the actual subjects. No degree, so let's say Diploma of Financial Planning, and that's it, which many advisors have. They can still gain access to the Graduate Diploma of Financial Planning, but they'll get 0 credits, okay? Now, so 0 credits, 1 credit, maybe 3 credits, depending on the subjects, 4 credits if they've got a relevant degree. What are these red things here? Well, these red things are basically additional credits, or the maximum credits you can get if you complete, as an existing advisor, the Advanced Diploma of Financial Planning. So, for example, if I don't have a degree and I have a Diploma of Financial Planning only, and I do my Advanced Diploma, I get 2 credits towards the Graduate Diploma, which means I only have to do 6 subjects. If I basically have done a non-relevant degree and ADFP, I can get 3. If I've done a non-relevant degree and 4 to 7 subjects and the ADFP, I can get 5. If I've done a non-relevant degree with 4 to 7 subjects plus ADFP plus either CFP or Certified Financial Planning or FCHFP, which is Fellow Chartered Financial Practitioner by the AFA, then I can get 7 credits. So you can see how, depending on where you're starting and what you're doing and where you're going, how you structure the pieces and put it all together can make a massive difference on savings in course fees and study time. So for a lot of people, the Advanced Diploma is a really handy linchpin, because it can provide anywhere between 2 to 3 additional credits towards this Graduate Diploma. 2 to 3 additional credits means $6,000 to $9,000 in course fee savings, and what did I say? 8 to 12 months study time. It's pretty powerful. So the Advanced Diploma, like I said before, the relevant degree, at least 4 credits, 3 more if you do the Advanced Diploma. Non-relevant degree, you get at least 1 credit. If you've got the Advanced Diploma and you've got less, you don't have any finance-related subjects, there's your 3 credits. If you've got your 4 to 7 related subjects but not quite your 8, then you get your 5 credits with the Advanced Diploma completed before you go into admissions for the Graduate Diploma of Financial Planning with university. If you're been out there and you've been motivated and you've got your non-relevant degree with your 4 to 7 subjects and you've done your CFP or your FCHFP and you do your Advanced Diploma, you get 7 credits. So what does it mean? Let's flip it. If you've got a relevant degree and you do your Advanced Diploma, you get 7 credits. What that means is you only have to do one subject, one bridging course, okay? One bridging course, and you meet the FASEA requirements. Importantly, and this is a little thing that's not really well known, but it's really important, if you choose that pathway, which is great, there's absolutely no problem with it, because you're doing the one course that you need to do is the FASEA Code of Ethics and monitoring bodies. That's great. But you don't get a qualification. You're not enrolling into the Graduate Diploma of Financial Planning. You're enrolling into one subject. So you get that one subject at a university level. For universities, important note, they can only give credits for up to 50%. So if I was someone who had a relevant degree, I get 4 credits. That's my 50% towards a graduate diploma. If I want to do a graduate diploma and I have my ADFP, I've got a choice. I can either use that ADFP for credit and get 7 credits and only have to do one subject, or if I really want to enrol in the graduate diploma of financial planning, I won't have the advanced diploma assessed. I'll get my 4 credits and I'll finish the 4 subjects in the graduate diploma of financial planning, so I get the graduate diploma of financial planning. Why would I do that? Well, some people like study, some people like to learn, some people want the qualification. It's horses for courses. So it's a similar thing down here as well. If you use your advanced diploma, once you get above 4 credits, which is basically these lines here, you will not be enrolled into the Graduate Diploma of Financial Planning. You'll simply be enrolled into bridging courses that meet the requirements. No degree, the assumption there is you're an existing advisor, so you must at least have the Diploma of Financial Planning or thereabouts. So by doing the advanced diploma, you will also get 2 credits. So quite powerful for a lot of people in the industry who have DFP, are thinking about the graduate diploma pathway, at this stage don't have any credits. If they do the advanced diploma of financial planning, many of whom might be able to do it by RPL, then they get 2 credits, which again, $6,000 worth of course fee savings roughly, and about 8 months. Is it worth completing the ADFP? Well, it depends on where you want to go. For most existing advisors, the answer will be yes. So let's have a quick look at this table. It's a little bit confusing. You will get this in a part of the video. So let's start here. This is just basically saying if someone has around here, if someone has a diploma of financial planning on the left-hand side down here now, and they want to go into the graduate diploma, they get 0 credits. It's going to take them 2 years. If they do the advanced diploma, they'll get an additional 2 credits. So this just spells out in a little bit more detail so that you can pause the video here and kind of work your way through it. But again, it's just laying out different scenarios if they've got a DFP, Bachelor of Business. If it's a non-relevant Bachelor of Business, they get 1 credit. If it's a non-relevant with 4 to 7 subjects, Bachelor of Business, they get 3 credits. If it's a relevant degree, they'll get their 4 credits. And then, like we talked about before, if they do the advanced diploma, they get an additional 2 credits under this scenario. They get additional 2 credits under this scenario, and then they get an additional 3 credits under this scenario. So you can see there's almost like a magic credit that pops up if you've got a relevant degree. So it's not. I haven't miscalculated here. It actually is 2, 2, and 3. Basically, what FASEA have said is if you've got a relevant degree, which means you've got 8 or more subjects in the relevant fields, and you do your advanced diploma, which means you've done your diploma of financial planning as well, then you get the added bonus point. It's great. It's fantastic. So what should you be doing now? Well, put in place an education plan with timelines and actions. I'm still amazed how people are calling integrity education and saying, hey, what do I need to do? Should I be doing something? La, la, la. Not so much because advisors are busy. Like, you're running a business or you're dealing with clients and, there's a lot on their plate and the Banking Royal Commission and everything. But I'm surprised the licensees haven't gone out a little bit firmer with information and helping their advisors put in place a plan. But basically, you need to start planning. So you need to start planning around the FASEA higher education piece. Where are you starting? What are you going to do? And you also need to start planning around the exam piece, which is needs to be done by the end of next year. Which brings us into the exam. As we talked about, needs to be completed by the end of next year. It covers 3 key areas, which is advice, regulatory and legal obligations, applied ethical and professional reasoning, and the financial advice construction. Okay. Existing advisors, such as yourselves, can sit the exam before completing the FASEA approved higher education requirements subjects. So that's good, which means that you can prioritise your exam ahead of your higher education study if need be. It's 70 questions, 64 multiple choice, but 6 short answer. Pardon me. It's a pass or fail. It's not 70%, 80%. You don't get whatever. You either pass or you fail. It's unlimited resits for existing advisors, but you must wait at least 3 months between resits, and you must then fit into the schedule from that 3-month point. So if the exams are literally 3 months apart, happy days. If the exams don't quite fit in that schedule, then you've got to wait 3 months plus whenever the next exam is. So you can see that you might get 2 or 3 bites of the cherry depending on when you start sitting your exam. At the moment, there's a scheduled dates, 3 in 2019. Actual dates have not been set, just the fact that 3 opportunities will be given. Bi-monthly in 2020, with an indication that if demand's there, they will up this to more regular exam sittings. 3.5 hours, 15 minutes pre-reading, closed book. You do have access to legislation and so forth on the system that you log into. Recommended reading list, practice exams and resources are still to be issued by FASEA. They still haven't been released as of today. I checked before this webinar. And so we're waiting on that stuff to put together our preparation or to finalise our exam preparation course. So stay tuned for that one. CPD, again, it's 40 hours per year. As I mentioned before, this should already be in place for existing advisors. The licensees have an obligation to do so by the 31st of March. Just a quick overview, there's minimum hours. It's more structured than previously. Previously, it's really up to the licensee to kind of work out what needed to be done versus RG 146 and who did what and all that kind of stuff, whereas now it's more prescribed. You've got 4 key areas plus general reading and stuff. You've got prescribed minimum hours in each. You can't cross-credit. What I mean by that is you can't count an hour here and the same hour there. It needs to be discretely allocated. It needs to be qualifying CPD activities, so cover CPD areas sufficient and practical as per FASEA. So it needs to be, it needs to cover in these areas, and it needs to be robust is probably a good word for it as well. Advisors will be able to count 30 hours of formal study towards their CPD hours. Again, can't double count. So if you do additional study and so forth, you can count up to 30 hours, and it needs to be allocated across the different areas discreetly. So you might put 5, 5, 5, and I don't know, 15. I don't know. We're just kind of putting it out there. 70% rule: licensees must approve at least 70% of the CPD hours of qualifying activities. So again, this is part of the plan that needs to be put into place. So that's why it should all be structured as per the FASEA requirements. The FASEA Code of Ethics, which I talked about before, that's been released to market. And look, there's no surprises. It's basically 5 personal values, 12 professional standards. I don't think there's anything weird or wonderful in there around trustworthy, competence, honesty, fairness, diligence, ethical behaviour, client care, quality process, professional commitment. The professional standards very much align with the CPD in a lot of ways up here. And this is what the bridging course, the FASEA Code of Ethics and Code Moderation course, will be based on. So the document itself, the FASEA Code of Ethics, is available from the FASEA website, fasea.gov.au. And yeah, you can find it on there, download it. It's not very long, so it's a fairly quick read, and it just gives you some insight into where it's all going. So how can integrity education help in terms of all of the standards for existing advisors? Well, we've come up with, based on just demand and people calling us and everyone being different, and so many options available as I've gone through the previous slides. We've come up with 2 options. One's a personal pathway plan, one's an individual education plan. The PPP, or the personal pathway plan, that's more of a kind of, we put you on the path to where you need to go. And then it's up to you to kind of work out the detail, liaise with the universities, and so forth. We give you a framework, but it'll let you then go off and do the work. That's at one price, and that starts at $500. plus GST. The second one is a more comprehensive individual education plan, and that is where we do everything that we do in the personal pathway plan, but we actually help you sit down, evaluate the short listing of education providers here, go through it, actually select one, and actually get the deal done, get you across the line to get into the education pathway that you want. We hear that advisors are time poor. That starts at $1,500. So again, it just depends on what you want to do, where you want to go, and there's information available on our website, and there's also, you can call us 1300 400 346, speak to myself or Aisling, and we're happy to talk you through those particular education plans. But as I said before, if you don't use us, at least yourself start planning. It's really, really important. Part of that process is selection of FASEA approved course providers. So we shortlist course providers in the education plans, in the pathway plans, and we help you select a preferred course provider and assist with the admissions process as well if you want. It can be quite daunting, the whole university space. They're still learning the ropes, the universities. So yeah, so it's just, you know, it's a good time to be shopping around. The financial advisor exam prep course, we'll also be releasing that once FASEA releases its documents and everything else. And that'll be online or face-to-face, and more details will come. Again, it's also available on the website at the moment, just some information, some more detailed information around the structure of the exam, what it's going to cover, all that kind of stuff. So really, that's about it. Thank you for your attending. So I think, what's the time now, Ashley?
7 minutes past.
7 minutes past. So I'm going to open it up to questions. Has anyone got any questions? Either in the chat box or I can hear on the speaker. What I'm also going to do, just in case no one wants to ask any personal questions in a public chat box, which is fair enough, after this webinar, there will be an email going out thanking you, and also having a Calendly invite. So if you do want to book a 15-minute session with myself, you can simply click on the link, and that'll book in a 15-minute session. Otherwise, I've gone through a fair bit today. It's a fair bit to take in. Any questions, any clarification on anything?
Yeah, I got one question.
Yep.
From David.
Yep.
If you pass the exam,
yep,
and elect not to enrol in a graduate diploma, then can you continue until the sun sets in 2023?
So the question was, just correct me if I'm wrong, David. So if you pass the exam, so you meet the first hurdle of the end of 2020, can you continue on the sunset of 2023 without doing any further study, or with doing further study?
Without doing any further study, just doing the
yep.
CPD.
Yep. Without. So the question is, can you meet the first hurdle of the exam, which is 2020, and then continue on between 2020 and 2023 without enrolling in further study? Technically, yes. I mean, under the FASEA framework, there's nothing that stops an advisor from doing that. The only thing I could see being a problem there is the licensee. So the licensee obviously carries risk by having advisors on their books. Obviously, at that end point, at the end of 2023 and the 1st of January 2024, if you haven't upgraded to the FASEA higher education requirements that you need to meet, wherever they may be, then you'll be struck off, you'll lose your authority and you'll be struck off the financial advisor register. And if you wanted to get back on the register, you would have to go back as a new advisor, which means that you would have to have passed the FASEA higher education piece. You would have already passed the exam, so that's fine. And then you would also have to undertake a professional year in your first 12 months. So if you wanted to kind of just, as you were saying, David, the sunset, kind of that sunset period, if you wanted to see out that sunset period, in theory, there's nothing stopping you from doing it other than potentially the licensee saying, hey, you either lock in or lock out. We don't want to
go. So, talk to the licensee.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the end of the day, this is a really important point following on from that question. You know, all of this discussion around the FASEA standards has been around the advisor and what the advisor is going to do, and the exam for the advisor and the education for the advisor. There's also obligations on the licensee. So the licensee needs to make sure its financial advisors, its authorised representatives, are meeting the obligations, because it's a risk to the licensee. They've got to plan forward, and they've got to make sure that they're adhering to all the rules and regulations as set under the FASEA standard. Example is CPD requirements and the CPD plan by the 31st of March and all that kind of stuff. So there's two people in the boat here, then that is the financial advisor and the licensee. So it's really important, and I think licensees, especially this year, will really get on board and start getting out there once the universities have courses released, because as you may or may not know, at the moment, FASEA asked for basically expressions of interest, if that's not quite the right word, but they're basically evaluating graduate diplomas in financial planning this month for sign-off. They're saying within 8 to 12 weeks. So the idea is that within probably by the end of June, I'm guessing, this isn't hard and fast, but indications from FASEA are by the end of June, everything's going to be settled in terms of what courses are approved. There's going to be a published list in addition to anything that's already been published around the approved courses. And so the industry is going to have a lot more certainty, which will really accelerate, I think, in the second half of the year. Thanks for that.
Thank you very much.
Anyway, does anyone else have a question or anything? Whether you want to type it or I can hear. Okay. Well, it doesn't look like anyone is going to put their hand up, but as I said, there will be an email coming out shortly, which will allow you to make a 15-minute appointment if you want, just for a one-on-one, confidential. So please take advantage of that if you're interested. Otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed the webinar. We'll make it available later today or maybe tomorrow, and we'll just send a link around via email. And as always, please feel free to touch base anytime. Thank you very much. Bye.